Welcome to Riding the Trauma Train, or welcome back if we've shared this space before. I'm Lydia, your host and fellow passenger in this journey of self-healing, inner strength and personal growth. This podcast is a safe, judgment-free space dedicated to the realities of living with and healing from trauma. Through personal stories and in-depth conversations with special guests, including therapists, healers, practitioners, and fellow survivors, we look at what healing can truly look like in everyday life. We explore realistic healing journeys and share simple, sustainable practices and actionable tools to support your well-being along the way. So grab your ticket, take a seat, and remember you are not on this journey alone. Today we have the amazing, I've already forgotten it. What is that? Adeline Vining. Thank you so much for joining us today on Riding the Trauma Train.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
I am going to kick off by basically, I've seen you on TikTok and it was your hair and your style that kind of stopped me in my tracks, as it were. And your handle at the time was Unapologetically Me,
Mm-hmm.
or was it Unapologetically You? Was it?
No, it would have been unapologetically me.
Okay, yeah, perfect. So with that, I just thought, wow, what an amazing concept. And I know a lot of people are saying it at the moment. There aren't a lot of many people actually doing it. So tell me where this came from.
I guess it really just comes from trying to embrace myself, and nobody's perfect. And I think it's about welcoming the flaws and everything that's made me who I am. I think there's a lot, you're talking about riding the trauma train here, but I think so many things happen to us and you can try and brush them under the carpet or move on from them. And I think they just all end up forming who you are, whether those things are great experiences or bad experiences. They just make you who you are. And I think there's no sense in apologizing for anything that's happened, whether that's where you were brought up or the colors that you choose to wear or an accent that you have or anything like that. And I think part of my life, I did apologize for that. This is not how I used to speak when I was a child. It's a learned accent. So, you kind of end up trying to cover up things. And I don't think anybody needs to. I think it's about embracing yourself completely, flaws and all.
Yeah, absolutely. On that note, then, where did that come from? Why did you decide that you didn't want to have your childhood accent?
I used to have a really strong French accent. So I went to French primary school. And when I went to the English system for secondary school, so I went to French school in the UK, but it was a private school. It was a paid for thing. And I moved into the English state system. And I think I was picked on really for being a foreigner. So I learned how to speak like this. And then I got picked on for being posh. So I thought, you can't win.
No, not at all. Bless you. And I have had a look a little bit into your story. When did the unapologetically you or unapologetically me first kind of flip from, do you know what, enough is enough. I just want to be me.
I think the thing about really accepting who I am honestly came from meeting my now husband, who I have always been a bit of a flirt, and it's always been a problem with previous partners and things. And I was always amazed that I found this partner who just fully accepts me for who I am, and is just welcoming of all of my audaciousness. I'm not a bad person, don't get me wrong, but I think in my view, I think in other people might have thought that I was crossing a line. If I might go out in a really low cut top or with a see-through top or something like that, he has absolutely no judgment and is just like, you should absolutely wear whatever you want to wear what makes you feel good. And he's very much embraced me and all of my individualities. And through him accepting me for all of that and me not having to cover anything up or tread on any eggshells, it's really made me learn to accept that all of those things are brilliant and they make me who I am.
And also it's the unapologetically thing, isn't it? I think it's really beautiful when you find somebody that you don't have to wear a different hat for, and you can be completely authentically you. I
Yeah.
totally get that.
I think uh, so I was in a coercive relationship for quite a few years, and The point that I realized that something wasn't right was we were on a couple's holiday with a friend, and he had gone back to our hotel room with a headache, which turns out he was actually on the phone to his other girlfriend at the time. But I was in the pool with the other couple that we were on holiday with, and they just said, "Gosh, you're so different when he's not around." And I said, "Oh yeah, I can't be myself in front of him. He doesn't let me be myself." And they just like, "That's not normal. That's not okay." And I remember spending the rest of the holiday just thinking, oh, there's people that just accept you for who you are, and you don't have to dull anything. And that really, after that, I started to put things together and realized that, yeah, I was way out of my depth in a relationship I shouldn't be in.
It's awareness, isn't it? If you don't know that you're in that situation, you don't know that it isn't normal to kind of put on a different hat, as it were. Like you've got this other couple that you can be yourself with, yet you've got somebody who loves you and is with you that you can't be yourself with. That changes so many things, doesn't it?
And I think you get brought up, I was brought up in an environment of children should be seen and not heard, and don't do as I do as I say. And so I'd kind of learnt to accept that there are situations where you have to act differently and be a different person. And that's the environment that I was brought up in. Not that it was traumatic, but just, I just thought, okay, well, in this situation, I have to be this person. And in this situation, I have to be this person. And turns out that's not actually true when it comes to relationships.
Yeah. And that is, I'm sure there are probably hundreds and hundreds of people that can either relate to what you've gone through and the realization, or there are probably people that are going to listen to this and think, oh, I can't
Mm.
be myself in front of my husband or my partner or my girlfriend. What what would you say to them then if they have that realization? What kind of steps did you go through from that moment of realization to walking a different path?
It's tricky because, as I say, the whole relationship was very coercive. So I had no control over my own finances. He changed everything about me, my hair, the clothes that I wore, everything. I became a completely different person. And that was all presented to me in the light of, I was quite young, so I must have been 21, I think. And he said, he was 11 years older than me. And he said that, elegant women wear neutrals. And I think he was trying to say that, as you get older and you grow up and you have life experience, you'll realize that, women don't wear bold colors and they don't do brash things and they behave in a certain way. And I thought, oh, right. Okay, well, I should be a grown up now.
Yeah.
Um, and I sort of didn't realize that was happening. But then at the same time, he had left his wife for me, or so that was what I was told, but I'm not sure. I think there's a lot of pressure on me to stay in the relationship because I left my wife for you. I think their relationship was well over before I came along, but that was just an excuse that he used. And then while we were together, he, as I say, before he had another girlfriend, so someone that we used to work with. And in the end, she actually sent me a message on Facebook Messenger and just said, look, this has just been going on for so long. I just need you to know that, we've been together for 2 years and I've had to have an abortion and we really want to have a child together. And I think it would just be fair for you to know and also for you to step aside. And I remember feeling absolutely elated when I got that message because I
I
thought,
was not expecting you to say that.
because I finally had something concrete to present him with to say this is over, because I had broken up with him 3 or 4 times previously and he kept wooing me back and just how he did it, to this day I still don't know, but I'd always just go, oh, okay, fine, and get back together with him. And this time around, I suddenly realized that this is it. I've got my freedom and it's on on digital paper or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was so happy. It just gave me the out that I needed. And I told him about that and, things went pretty bad straight away. And it took a few months to really get away and get freedom, but that was it. I was out. So it was really liberating, actually.
I did not expect you to say that word, but that is amazing because there's so many people that can relate to that. And the controlling and coercive behavior is not a quick thing, is it? It is something that is developed over
Mm.
time. Like you said, being brought up in a time where children are seen and not heard, that wasn't an abnormality to be in a relationship where you do the same thing. Like you
Yeah.
were just repeating behavior. When you finally were free of him, what was the next thing you did? What was that pull towards Adeline? What did you do?
I used to have, when we were together, I had a long-ish bleach blonde bob, and he would say things to me like, "You look just like your brother." And I always wanted to cut my hair short into a pixie cut. He said, "You look manly enough as it is. As soon as you cut off your hair, you'll just look like your brother and you'll be a man." So the first thing I did was cut my hair off and dye it purple.
Love that.
So yeah, I haven't had long hair since. I've tried long hair once during lockdown, and then I just was like, it's not me. So yeah.
I love that. That is brilliant because that's not only an empowerment to yourself, that is also like the middle finger stuck up. As it's like right back at you. This isn't happening.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm intrigued then. Your first kind of big wow moment is chopping off your hair, dyeing it purple. Where did you go from being the Adeline? I'm guessing that Adeline was quite and not kind of herself with around other people to being this amazing TikTok lady. I don't know what to call it, TikTok content creator or my 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 actual term. I just think you're an innovator and I think you are an amazing person to give confidence to so many women and men. I just think, yeah, I think you're a confidence creator, not a content
Oh, I
creator.
like that. Okay, that's going to be my new tagline. Do you know, I vividly remember hanging out with my brother and his mates. My dad had converted, or my brother had converted my dad's garage into a little recording studio because he was in a band and all his mates used to hang out in there. And I remember going and seeing them after I'd broken up with my ex, and they just said, "It's so good to have you back," you know? And funnily enough, I was looking through old photos just yesterday, trying to find something from like 2008 or something. And I came across all these photos of just hanging out in my dad's garage with my brother and his friends. And it just reminded me of, I definitely went through a period of raucousness, is that a word? Of just doing everything that I was ever told I should never do. I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to try everything once.
Rebellion.
Rebellion, yeah. I just had a solid year, I think, of just doing absolutely everything that I had been either too afraid to do or thought wasn't very me. I ended up going to loads of crazy nightclubs, and yeah, it was a really wild, really fun time. And I think it really helped me learn who I am and really remember who I was before. Because the time that I was with my ex, it was over a 3-year period and I was 18, you know? So 18 to 21 and he was 11 years older than me. Like those are really, really formative years. And I never got to experience the same sort of time that people go to university and were drinking themselves into excess and to oblivion. I never did that, you know, and so I did it all. I did it all, and had a really, really good time.
And how did you meet your now husband? Because you've said that he lets you be exactly who you are and kind of and embraces it and encourages it. How did that come about?
He's a musician, so we met at a gig. It was a Mumford and Sons gig, and my friend was dating. This is before they became as big as they are. My friend was dating one of the band. I use the term dating very, very loosely. And he just happened to be there, and I spent the whole night trying to chat him up, and he was completely oblivious. And yeah, I just kept bumping into him at different events and different things, and eventually I just knocked him down and just knocked him down. What's the word? I uh, I don't know what the English word is, but yeah, he gave it. Yeah, eventually he agreed to go on a date with me.
Yeah, I don't know what that would be. Hooked him, caught him, put him
Yeah,
on. I
maybe.
don't know. Anyway, you managed to woo him.
Quite. Yeah.
And he's always just been that partner that's embraced your alternativeness. Oh, this is going to be a whole podcast of words that do not exist. So we'll have to write them down at the end and then submit them to Oxford Dictionary.
Yeah. No, he just you know, I've had to tell him quite traumatic life experiences that I've been through other than being in that relationship, and he's kind of just takes them all on board and goes, okay, and you know, how are you feeling? And he just accepts everything I've told him and any experience that I share with him. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, that's made you you. And he's very good at just, yeah, I don't know. He just gets me.
It's lovely.
Yeah. Just like your best friend does, like your
Yeah.
girlfriends will just, yeah. And he's very good at hyping me up. So that's good too.
I love that. What you've mentioned a couple of things then, that not only did you have this traumatic control and coercive relationship, you've had a few other things happen. How do you think the trauma in your life has formed who you are today, and the kind of fact that you've flipped it from being so introvert and quiet and putting a mask on, so to speak, to being so open, flamboyant, I was going to say, but like you are like a breath of fresh air. So how do you
Thanks.
think your trauma has kind of...
I was thinking about this. I thought you might ask me this, and I was trying to think how I would answer this question. And my brain initially went to, I think I am very much the kind of person that brushing things under the carpet isn't what I mean at all. But I think I've had many, many experiences in my life that are classed as traumatic, but I've had many, many experiences in my life that are incredible. And I think that other people would, some people would never get the chance to experience. And I'm very, very grateful for those experiences. And at the same time, those experiences wouldn't have come without the trauma. And I think, it's just, life just has a way of throwing curveballs at you. And I think I've just accepted that, you can't have a rainbow without the rain, really. And bad things happen to good people, and that doesn't make you the bad person, and the stuff that's happened to me none of it is my fault. And I didn't welcome any of it into my life, but it's just an experience that I've had. And I think to come out of the other side and to be able to talk about those experiences and hopefully help other people means that something that's could have been something that changed my life for the worse can actually help improve somebody else's. And that's something that I really welcome doing. Something that's come up that I've had to help a police case with something that happened to me years and years ago, just last week, actually. And I actually can't talk about it. But I heard my husband talking to the police officers afterwards, and he just said that Adeline is not very good at dealing with my own experiences isn't right, because I have dealt with them and I've dealt with them in my own way. But as soon as I know that something that I've experienced will help another person, I will run at the chance to help. So the thing that I'm currently helping the police with isn't to do with me necessarily, although it did happen to me. It's actually because I can help other people get justice. And if it means putting myself in a difficult place to do that, I'm comfortable doing it because I hope that it's going to help these other people. So I think I just use all of those experiences in that sort of way, really, and just hope that, and people always say it's so helpful to hear other people talk about their experiences, because you do just think you're alone, and everyone has a different way of coping and a different experience and a different lesson that they've learned. And one of them at some point will resonate with another person and help them.
Yeah, my tagline for the podcast is, remember, you are not on this journey alone. My childhood trauma is something that I've kind of put it in a box. I know it's there and it pops up every now and again, and I deal with it and I work through it. But if somebody else needs some help, I'm like 10 feet forward, like that box is open and flung over a wall. Like I can be there. So I can completely relate to that. And I think our experiences and shared experiences, if we speak up about them and then we talk about them, the people that don't have that courage or don't have that strength yet, that gives them that little bit, even if it's just like a morsel, knowing somebody else that's been through something similar to you. Like we all connect, and we're like almost like spider web, because we are all connected in some way, shape or form.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do also think it's amazing that when you are a survivor of trauma, how much strength you draw from yourself to help other people when you couldn't find the strength to do it for yourself.
Yeah, you become a protector. I think you go from, bypass the victim, become a survivor and be a protector. I think those are, it's a opportunity to do good. And, I wouldn't want to wish anything that I've been through on anybody else ever. So if I can prevent that in any way, shape or form, I will.
I think obviously with everything in the news at the moment, there's a lot going on. I just think we all need to connect. Coming back to who you are and how you've changed, is there any evidence of what you look like before colour?
I don't think I've changed much. I think I was always like this, and then it was taken away from me, and
Mhm.
I just became who I was again afterwards. I think there's definitely a period of time where, I mean, I've deleted most of the photos. Obviously, I don't need any reminders, but there's definitely a period of time where I looked vastly different, and I looked like the kind of adult I thought adults should be,
Mhm.
carrying briefcases and wearing suits and things, but I knew I never wanted that life. So why let myself go down that path? I don't know. But yeah, I've always been really colourful. I remember being gifted a neon pink sari when I was about 6. And it was beautiful. It was like multicoloured beading all down the collar and on the cuffs and on the hem. And I wore it to everything. And I just remember having this incredible sari and just felt like I was the only person at my school that had one. And I would any opportunity to wear it. And when we did Mardi Gras at school, so like I think they have it mufti days in English school, but
Yeah,
in the French schools you dressed up, so you chose a theme. And I was always dressing up as a punk, and I'd get my mum to do thick black eyeliner and
mm,
anything over the top and ridiculous. So
love that.
I've always wanted to be seen. I've always dressed in a way that's, if I haven't had the voice to say I'm here, I wanted to say my clothes could do the job for me, but now my voice does it as well.
What I find interesting is that your page is all about confidence and embracing who you are. My childhood trauma didn't make me gain weight, but I put a protective blanket over me, and that was in the form of body fat. I'm a vintage girl, vintage through and through. I love my vintage dresses, hair, all of the shebang. When I lost the weight, I lost that identity. Now, as much as I still love it, I have lost the way of doing it for my body, if that makes sense. For those of us like me that feel like they've lost their identity a bit, what would you advise them to do to regain that?
I think in your case, I think just because your brain is thinking something doesn't mean it's true. Like
Hmm.
I'm sure you look absolutely gorgeous in all of those clothes. And any body shape, that's the great thing, especially about the
Hmm.
50s, was that every body shape was embraced and a woman was a woman, regardless of, you know, size or anything. So I think I always say it's a confidence, or in this case, if there's something that you really wish you could wear, it's a muscle. And like everything, if you don't use it, it goes into hibernation. And so, if you wish you wore more makeup or did your hair or wore more color, you start small and you do a little bit. And then you just each day it gets easier. When I first started doing content creation, talking to camera was absolutely terrifying. And now I'm very, very comfortable talking. And it all just comes from, I think, just trying again and just, remember the things that you used to love and just choose one thing and see how it makes you feel. Start small and keep going.
It's awesome. What about for those who have never found themselves? Because obviously, being somebody that, like you said, you had like a section of your life where you weren't yourself, and you were kind of put into an eggshell. Ironically, is the color of what you were.
Yeah.
What would you say to those that have never actually found their identity or don't know where to find it? What would you say to those?
I mean, no, I think, exploration in every sense of the word. They say it, when it comes to I don't know how you feel about me talking about it, but like, just female pleasure. A lot of people, like, there's adult women that have never had an orgasm is because they just don't know how, or they've never, it all just becomes, it's all exploration and figuring out what it is that, ticks your boxes, and whether that's, sex, or whether it's clothes that you wear, or something that the way that it makes you feel. I think you don't know if you don't know who you are and what you like, you need to try everything. How do you know that chocolate's your favorite flavor ice cream? Have you tried coffee yet? It's you don't know until you've tried it. And I would say, do as much exploration as possible into things, whether those are hobbies or styles of clothes or foods or anything, and just really try and figure out. It seems very simple to say, and I don't, it almost feels like it's so simple it's not helpful, but I think that's the only way that I would learn. Like, I love ska music and I love dubstep, and the
Oh,
only
me
reason that
too.
and this has only happened because I've gone to festivals and I've heard it and I've gone, oh my God, I was never really exposed to that. We were listening to rock and roll and indie music growing up, and I've suddenly
Mhm.
discovered that actually that's what I was brought up in. Whilst I enjoy it, actually I'm much happier listening to dubstep and reggae, um, ska and stuff, and I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't tried it and been exposed to
Mhm.
it, and that's become a part of me, and that's, definitely I've embraced it, and I think it's as soon as you find something that you love, you can, it becomes a part of your identity.
Yes,
Is that
that's
helpful?
amazing.
I don't know.
Yes, absolutely. And I think for one of the newsletter that I sent out to this week was about awareness, but actually awareness without exploration, you're not going to know. And like,
Hmm.
I also think what you said at the beginning was about female pleasure. I think women that kind of look externally for female pleasure, whether that's with toys or whatever.
Just, I mean, I just always use, I think, sex as just an analogy, really,
Hmm.
and in that way, and I think it's a massive shame that lots of women have never had an orgasm. So it's always like, if you're going to talk about exploration, start there
Yeah,
and have a
absolutely.
good time.
Oh, I love that. Um, is there anything that is out there for you at the moment? Is there anything that you want to explore? Is there anything that you think, oh, Adeline, let's go down that road?
But yeah, I think the more I do things like this and the more I talk about my experiences, the more it makes me want to make sure that what I am doing is helping people. I think especially when you get down the route of content creation, you can suddenly create content just for content's sake. And
Hmm.
actually, what makes me feel happiest is, I love, obviously everyone loves good feedback, but I love getting feedback from someone or from people when they say, God, this is exactly what I needed to hear. And this is so helpful, and just thank you for being so honest. And I think more of that. And I think I've done some public speaking in the past, so I've run quite a few businesses, and I've always done public speaking from a business perspective. And I think I'd really like to go down the route of public speaking from a more helpful empowerment perspective, I think, and really I mean, obviously my audience is predominantly women, but there are men that watch and consume my content, and the message applies to all sexes and all genders, really. That I think as soon as we can really embrace who we truly are and not apologize for any of it, then we will all have a happier life. We're not
Hmm.
trying to cover anything up, and I'd like to do more of sharing that kind of thing.
That's so cool. What would you say then? This is a random question, but being unapologetically you and be embracing yourself, what do you feel is the total opposite of that? How would you describe a person that is the opposite?
I think for a lot of people, this is definitely not the total opposite, but I think for people, there are people that say to me, I wish I had the confidence to wear what you wear. And that is an everyday statement that I hear from people
Mm.
all the time. Uh, that's a very normal middle ground. So I don't think that that's the polar opposite, but that's definitely something that is anyone can change. Anyone can, as I say, that's a muscle that just needs to be practiced. You need to just go out and do the thing, and you'll get better at it and you'll get more confident. I think the polar opposite to being unapologetically yourself was probably the person that I was for those 3 years. And it's bending and morphing yourself to being an unrecognizable version of you. And it's difficult when you talk about people who have lost or have never had a complete sense of self. But I think if everything you're doing is to fit in a box or please another person, or because that's the expectation of you, then I think that's the polar opposite. And I think
Mhm.
it's really, really easy to fall into that trap. You end up going down a corporate career because that's what's expected of you. And,
Mhm.
our parents put pressures and expectations on us. And then our peer group does. And then you think, well, I spent, £35,000 on a degree, I need to use it. And actually, you end up putting those expectations on yourself. Someone said something amazing the other day that said, it was talking about work, and it was about, I can't remember it now, but it was about pursuing what you enjoy doing and what you're good at, rather than, those are two very separate things.
Mhm.
And actually, if you pursue something you enjoy, you're going to be good at it. But you can be good at something that you don't enjoy.
Yeah.
So you can easily end up being great at something and living a life that on paper is great, but you don't enjoy any of it. Whereas I've chosen to go down the path of enjoyment. And, I'm never going to be rich because of it, but I'm very happy there. I'm very happy with the choices that I've made and the decisions. And I know that every day I've made the right decision and I'm doing the right thing. So it's much more about enjoying my life and making sure that the people that I love, they know that I'm enjoying my time with them. That's it, really.
Speaking of enjoying time, so I think I messaged you. You put a post up about what your son said something about what you're wearing. I can't remember the exact post, but I showed both of my daughters, and they were like, "Oh my God!" They absolutely adored everything about the post, everything about your style. Then I had to go through your page and show them all the different dresses and colourful everything, and they were just, yeah, they were in awe. You were like a life size picture of happiness in colour. It's almost like you've gone from black and white picture to a Technicolor. Oh, TV money.
Oh, thanks.
With regards to everything that you've been through and your ex-partner, your new husband, children, what other systems made the biggest difference to you on your journey?
Gosh, friends, without a doubt, friends. And especially the friends that had, and I say especially, only the friends that had no judgment. It was like,
Mhm.
okay, we lost you and now you're back. That's amazing. And when you're ready to talk about it, let's talk about it. If you don't ever want to talk about it, let's not. I think I was really lucky in that respect. My brother is a couple of years older than me, but we share a friendship circle. So when I lost my friends, I managed to get them back really quite quickly because they were still hanging around with him. We went out a couple of weeks ago, all of us together as a belated 40th, and it was great. It was really good. But in terms of practical things that helped me, I have never been through therapy, but my daughter saw an art therapist a few years ago. She's had a couple of, so she was hit by a car when she was 4, which is another trauma that, my husband and I have experienced.
Yep.
And we hadn't dealt with that trauma at the time, but we realized that it had actually triggered some things for our daughter. So she's went to art therapy. But before the art therapist would start sessions with her, she wanted to talk to us as a couple, figure out what our traumas were. Because obviously, if you experience trauma, the chances are generational trauma, you will,
Yeah.
whether you mean to or not, you're passing those on to your child. Trying to figure out what generational trauma we had. And I found that whole process really incredible, talking about it. And I think the best thing that came out from it for me was the therapist turning around to me and saying, "You've had a really, really traumatic life." And I'd never at that point considered for a second that I had. I just thought, well, that's my life and I've dealt with it and I've moved on. And actually hearing someone say that back to me was kind of a bit of a shock, but also there's a lot of validation there and thinking, oh, okay, well, I might have gone off the rails at that point, but there's probably a very valid reason for doing that and realizing that it wasn't ever my fault. So that was good, I think. I mean, I love external validation. I wouldn't be a content creator if I didn't. I love people telling me I'm doing a good job. I've craved that. I was the same as a child. I just want to be told that I'm doing well. And I've got no shame in admitting that. So yeah, that was good. Practical therapy is actually good.
Yeah, I agree. You were talking then about people saying, "Oh, you've come back." In those 3 years, did anyone say to you, like, "Where have you gone? What's going on?" Did anyone recognize the difference in what you kind of changed to?
Yeah, I think they did, and they were all reaching out to me, and yeah, I completely cut them off. I've always been quite open. I've always talked openly about everything, so it came naturally to me to talk to my then boyfriend that so and so wants me to go out with them or this or that, and he just would cut me off at any opportunity. I remember him saying things to me about my friends when they weren't around, and me thinking, oh gosh, I hadn't noticed that. He would say things that they would look at me funnily when I left the room, or if I went to the bathroom, they would say things, and they were just words that just got into my head, and I,
Mhm.
paid attention. And unfortunately, yeah, you know, as much as they tried, I was
You'd
gone.
already painted that kind of negative
Mm,
picture of them, I suppose,
mm.
and it is a difficult thing, especially if you are someone that likes external validation. If you think your friends are either talking about you or giving you dirty looks, like, you you put up a barrier against them, don't you? You don't want to let
Absolutely.
them in. What would you say to somebody that was going through those, I'm calling them those eggshell years, because
Mm.
I'm thinking of it in black and white vintage film, but
That's what it was like.
so this, you've got a moment and you're literally in this black and white for 3 years. If anybody is listening to this as somebody that is in a relationship that is controlling, coercive, what would you say to them to kind of try and recognize what is going on?
It's difficult because I think from experience, but also from everything that I've researched about it, even if you're in a coercive relationship, it's going to get physical at some point, which it did in my case. And you have to protect yourself and you have to make sure that you're going to be safe. So I think recognizing that you're in that situation is one thing, and then you have to make steps to get out is another, because you do have to make sure that if you've made the decision that you're going to leave, that there is a safe place for you to go. I was really lucky that I had a safe place, and he only got physical that last time. You know, it wasn't pleasant, but for me, it was just that one time. But I think if you're in that, if you, I've had a couple of women reach out to me that have said that they are unhappy in their marriage and they feel that things have become stagnant. And I think there's definitely a grey area where losing your sense of self is different to being in a coercive relationship. Like, I
Mhm.
think there's an overlap, because I think in losing your sense of self, you then end up doing the easy thing. And if your partner is slightly dominant, then you're going to end up doing what they say. So there's definitely some overlap there. But I think if you're in a relationship and you've got, especially as a woman, it's awful, but if you've got no financial control, if you've lost any assets, that's terrifying. And when I realized that, that was really quite scary for me. He'd put me on his mortgage, so I never was able to get my own for a long time. I had very little control on different things. I think you really have to look and see what the level of control is. Try and figure out who have you cut out of your life and why. And, if you've been told that people are saying things behind your back or looking at you, who is giving you that information? And is it a chain? Is it different people? Is it, God, I forget the word. Is it lots of people telling you these things, or is it one person telling you the same thing over and over again in a different way? Because that's a very different experience and a different thing to be told. I think the most important thing is really just figuring out. I mean, it's hard. I didn't know, if I'm completely honest, I didn't know that I was in a coercive relationship until years afterwards, when I
Mhm.
saw a poster up in a bathroom that said signs of coercive relationship is domestic abuse. And then it listed all this stuff. And I went, I just
Mm.
thought I was in a bad relationship and I hadn't realized. And so I think it's so hard to spot these things happening when you're in the middle of it, because it starts off so small and so gentle, and it just becomes completely consuming. And I don't wish it on anyone. I really don't.
That was a very difficult question.
I don't think I answered it.
Then that just goes to show how difficult it is being in that situation.
Mm.
And if you can't answer something straightforward, it's not going to be straightforward, is it? If you could say to the people that are in those relationships, what do you think are the biggest myths about leaving abusive relationships? What do you wish people would understand more?
I think the biggest myth is that you're alone. You are never, ever alone. And although, the older you are and the more financial control somebody has, the harder it is, because, you're thinking, well, how am I going to leave the kids? What am I going to tell the children? Where am I going to live? But that's a decision for down the line. The most
Mhm.
important thing is getting out. And I think if you carry on thinking about the what ifs, you will never leave, because the fear comes in, and the myth that you're going to be alone. And by alone, I don't mean without a partner. I just mean without help,
Mhm.
is not real. Like, there is so many of us have experienced this and are willing to help. Refuges set up for immediate help. There's some incredible charities set up that you can call them in advance and say, this is when I'm planning to go, and they will have someone there to help you. And I have had horrible situations where they've not been able to help, and you've called up a women's charity and they're not helpful, and that's heartbreaking. But it's don't give up. you're not alone. That's the myth. And there is going to be someone there to support you. My cat's just popped into something.
Oh, hello.
um, yeah, but I would say before you do any of that, you need to make sure that there's a safe exit plan.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's really important that we talk about this, and I think it's really important that being in that situation, you kind of do try and find your way out of something. I absolutely love the fact that you have come back to Technicolor and you are now embracing who you are. How did you, like thinking about your TikTok page, how did you go from some bright, bold colors to like you have got like was it the 40th birthday? You wore that like mermaid scale dress, which wow. How did you go from bold colors to let's just shove it all out in the world? Because those sequin things were lovely.
Gosh, I think obviously with my husband being a musician, he plays a lot of festivals, and my brother was in a band and he played festivals as well before. So before I met my husband, and I loved the fact that when you could go to a festival, everyone dressed, I mean, outrageously. Men. There was no gender. There was no anyone could wear anything, and I loved that whole environment. And I was always embrace color, but I just loved the fact that everyone felt so happy and free and carefree and confident enough to wear everything and anything or nothing at a festival. And I just thought, well, why isn't this carrying on every day? Like, why can't we be like this every day? And that's what I did. I mean, I had an office job for a brief period of time, and I remember I was always the most overdressed person in the office, and it became a running joke of what is she going to wear today? And then it was always disappointment at the Christmas parties, the office parties, because I just wore the same thing. I didn't have clothes for best. I just wore my favorite things all the time. And they were like, "Oh, you're expecting something really outrageous." And I was like, "Well, you get that 5 days a week. Why, why would it be any different now?" And I love the way that clothes make me feel. I love the confidence it gives me. I love the fact that I can put something on and my shoulders go back. I stand a little taller and I look in the mirror and think, oh my God, I feel incredible. And it's not about how I look at all. It's how they make me feel. It's so visceral and amazing. And I just think if something makes me feel that, I want to wear it all the time. I want to feel that good every day. And that's where that's come from.
I love that. And I think I have been kind of just going through all your content because everything is so different. There is no one thing that's the same. And I do find that absolutely phenomenal. And I think you put something on there about a lady saying, oh, yeah, how did you feel in that dress? And she said, oh, I felt extraordinary jumpsuit, I think it was. And then you were like, why wouldn't he want to feel that every day? And
Yeah.
it's so true. Like when I'm having a lazy day or I feel bad or I'm just not feeling great, I have a messy bun. I have no makeup on and wear drab colours. Now, when I feel good, like on Friday night we went out. I did my vintage hair. I had a massive leopard print handkerchief dress on, and I was like, oh my god! And I did, and I felt phenomenal. So yeah, why wouldn't you want to feel that every day? Even if you don't have to wear a heel, although I do love all your heels. I'm a
Yeah.
heels girl. Um, you don't like just color. I think color is just makes up like the sunshine coming out, isn't it? It's putting
Yeah.
sunshine on your back is
Yeah.
basically what it is.
And I think it's not necessarily colour for everybody. Like I've had people say to me that if you're an alt girl and you love
Mhm.
wearing black and lace and stuff, and that's what makes you feel your best, then that's what you need to wear. And
Yeah.
clothes have this incredible ability to just change how it changes your emotion. I, yeah, for me, it sometimes feels really shallow when I say it, but it's really important to me because it really affects my mood and
Mhm.
it changes other people's moods as well. You can genuinely cheer someone up by just walking past and being ridiculously overdressed, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God!" You're like, "Hi."
There was a lady in Superdrug the other day, and she had her hair. It was like it was. If you're listening, I'm going to try and not seeing, looking. I'm going to try and describe it. So she had kind of like a sweeping fringe that was in a beehive at the top, and then she'd swept it round underneath, and it was kind of almost like a double French twist. It was phenomenal. Now she must have been, gosh, in her early 70s, and
Mm.
I just said to her, I went, your hair looks absolutely beautiful. And the smile on her face, and I just thought she must have gone to a lot of effort to do that, although maybe not if she's been doing it for 40 years, but I think, yeah, I love that feeling. And for me, complimenting other people is how makes me feel really good about
Mm.
me, even though it's because I know it's made their day, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I was going to say, I always comment if anything about someone, their
Hmm.
hair, their clothes, their shoes, their makeup, their eye color. I'm just like,
Hmm.
male or female, I'm like, oh my gosh, you look incredible. And I think, or just your whole vibe has made me smile. And I think it's so important to share that because it does make other people feel good, but also it's expressing joy makes you feel happier. There's something,
Absolutely.
to be said for just,
Being
you know,
kind.
yeah, being kind.
And it's also rubbed off on my daughters as well, because they both, wherever we go, they see something someone's wearing, and they'll be like, "Oh, I love your coat," and you just see the little smile and the shoulders go back a bit. They stand up a bit taller. And a couple of weeks ago, we just went for a roast dinner, and this lady had this amazing silver buckle, like rope type belt on her jeans, and my youngest was like, "Oh my gosh, your belt is fantastic." And she just was like, "Thank you." She was the waitress there, and she was just a bit flabbergasted about
Yeah.
this 7-year-old just lighting her day up. It was amazing.
I will say, as a woman, I've certainly for me, the compliment, getting a compliment from a 6, 7, 5, 8-year-old girl brings me so much joy because I dress for that girl every day, for like little child me who just loved clothes. I like to think that the clothes I wear would have made younger me smile and be so excited at my wardrobe. So when I get a compliment from, like when I'm on the school run and the girls like come up to me and say, "You look like a princess," I'm like, "God, thank
That was the look I was going for.
you." Yeah, they get it.
I Yeah, I love that. Can we think about being unapologetically you and finding your identity? 3 things that somebody listening to this can take away and be like, if I implement these small things every day, this is going to help me become who I want to be. What would you say to them?
First one is definitely confidence is a muscle. You might not feel very confident today, but if you do something and you do keep doing it, it's going to become easier. And if it's building confidence, then just do one little thing every day. And I promise I promise it'll get easier and it's be natural behavior within a couple of weeks. I think take the time to embrace all of your flaws. I think, it's so easy to say, I know, but you can't change who you are and you can't change the experiences that have happened to you. So doting on the past and worrying about how those have affected you now isn't going to help you move on in the future. And I think really just accept that those things have happened and embrace them as part of yourself and go, well, I wouldn't be me without those things. And I think thirdly, dress for yourself, like dress for you. Stop trying to, I'm not suggesting that people are doing this, but don't dress for the environment that you're going into. Don't dress for anybody else. If you think your husband's going to raise an eyebrow at your outfit, it doesn't matter if it makes you feel great. And if the kids are going to laugh at you on the school run because you're wearing head to toe lilac, does it matter if you feel great about it? And that ties in with the confidence thing. But I think just wear what really makes you happy.
I love
And you
that.
have to feel it. You have to feel happy.
Yes, wear what makes you feel good. And I think you're right. If you wear something that makes you feel good and feel happy, the confidence will come. So many of us can look in the mirror when we don't feel good. The next day we look exactly the same, but actually when you're happy, you look at yourself in a different light, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, for every person that looks at you and thinks, God, what is she wearing? There'll be 10 people thinking, I wish I could wear that,
Hmm.
and
It's ironic because when I said about the vintage dresses I used to wear, everyone would say to me, "I can't remember you being bigger." I was like, I was nearly 40 kilos bigger. Yeah, but I can't remember you like that. You always dress so well. And it's like taking me back. Right, come on, you can do this. Find your
yeah.
vintage sparkle again. Um, okay, so I have one final question for you. This is the conductor's question. And it's a difficult one because I think we've spoken about 2 different elements, haven't we?
So, yeah.
We've spoken about the abusive relationship and we've spoken about your identity. So the conductor's question is, if you could sit on the train in the carriage next to the Adeline that was first in that relationship, you first realized that you were in that controlling relationship, what would you say to her about the colour and the confidence you've brought into your life now?
Gosh, I think I would say, I mean, you're going to do great is it's what I'd want to say and it's what I'd want to hear. And, you know, everyone's version of great is very, very different. And I think I would just tell myself that it's everything's going to work out better. It's like cave diving, you're kind of crashing down and you don't know what you're going to do. And then you're going to find something spectacular. And then you can tell everyone about it when you come out the other side. I would tell myself that this is a blip and the next carriage is first class.
Oh, yes. I love that. Wow. I literally have got goosebumps. I've got goosebumps. And I think it is a beautiful thing to be able to share not only your story, but to be able to share the tidbits that are going to help other people regain their confidence, help them find themselves again, and or find their new identity because maybe it's something they haven't found yet. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Okay, I am going to wrap up. So thank you so much for being on here. I really, really appreciate you. And where can people find you before I literally stop?
I am just at Adeline Vining, all one word on all the socials. And if you just stick it into Google, you'll find my website as well.
What do you do on your website? We haven't even spoken about that.
Much the same. It's just me sharing little stories and little tidbits, and it's just a place for everything.
Amazing.
All the socials to be together.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us
You're
today. And
welcome.
I cannot wait to share this episode with everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me today on Riding the Trauma Train. I'm Lydia and I feel privileged to share this space with you. No matter where you are on this train right now, whether it's in survival mode, slowly finding your feet in recovery, or maybe it's somewhere in between, remember you are not alone in what you're feeling and you do not have to travel this journey by yourself. So if you'd like to continue traveling together, please follow Riding the Trauma Train wherever you're listening so you can join us at the next stop. Until next time, take care.